is 9:30. Time for a little sports therapy session. Is that what we're doing this week?
We may need it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we are. We're going through some withdrawals here. We haven't gotten together for a week, man. I'm telling you. We got some cool stuff coming up here today. Of course, Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Assistant Sports Director Casey Miners will wake up sometime and join us. We hope in the next half hour.
He's running, just not very fast.
I'm assuming he's listening right now going, they're going to roast me, I know.
Oh, yes.
And we will, because you deserve it. Anyway, we're going to have our trivia question coming up here in a minute. I do want to wait until Casey gets in here for that, but we do have a great special guest with us here this morning, and she is going to be inducted into the UNI Hall of Fame. Dani Stipe, the 2006 graduate of Kemper, 2010, I assume, from UNI. Is that right, Dani?
2011. I took
2011.
It took a fifth year.
I'm going to have you speak way up. You're a soft talker there. So 2011, you said, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now we can barely hear you there, so move on over to that mic if you would, please. Let's try that one a little bit more. Is that any better?
2011 graduate of UNI.
There we go. That's a little better for us. So 2011, and you are going to be inducted into the UNI Hall of Fame on August the 30th. You know what? It couldn't have come as a huge shock for you. I mean, you had so many accolades in college. Was it a surprise when you found out?
It definitely was. It's been so long since I've been out. I've kind of followed previous year's inductees a little bit. Some of my past classmates or teammates have gone into the Hall of Fame, but they were national champions, All-Americans, and I didn't quite reach that level of success. But
that's surprising. That's surprising because I thought you did. I mean, because of all the accolades and all the things that you won in college, I would have thought for sure that All-American would have been attached to your name.
I qualified for 3 national championships. Yep. I tended to peak at the conference meet, but I did provisionally qualify for the Olympic trials, so that's kind of hang my hat on that. But so a few accolades there. But
what was that experience like? With the Olympic trials and stuff.
It was surreal. I mean, I didn't get to go, so the whole process is there's an A standard and a B standard. A standard is an automatic qualification. B standard is if there are enough spots available left, then they start taking the B standards. They took 18, and I was 23rd in the nation, so I was 5 out.
It was interesting. When you got to college, you expanded your sports horizons. You didn't focus more. You expanded more.
Yeah, I sure did. I got a text message from Coach Gefford about hurdles practice, and I'm like, am I supposed to be on this text thread or what? So I showed up, and he's kind of like, well, you might as well try. And hurdles is one of the heptathlon events, and so I just kind of started trying to do that, and then kind of segued from there. And I'm glad I did. I wasn't ever going to be top tier in an individual event, but I was good enough at 7 different events that I was able to be great nationally.
What was it like having to learn the new events? You were a sprinter and a long jumper in high school, and all of a sudden you're doing things that you had probably never even dreamed of doing when you got to college.
Yeah, I never thought I'd do hurdles. Javelin turned out to be probably my favorite event. My center field skills. Center fielders tended to be good javelin throwers. Okay. So that was probably my favorite. High jump was one I had played around with in high school. I think with long jump, you kind of can transition a little bit, at least kind of have some of the mechanics down for that. Mm-hmm. The two toughest ones were shot put. I am not built to be a shot putter. That was my struggle, and the 800. I wasn't necessarily bad at it. I just hated it.
Yeah, that's the middle distance there between sprinting and a distance run.
It's essentially a sprint, but it's torture. And it's the last event, and you got to think about it for 2 days.
How on board were you though, when they said we want you to compete in the pentathlon and the heptathlon? Were you just like, okay, let's do it?
I I prefer the field events, and so that was my opportunity to add a few more into what I was doing. I wouldn't have enjoyed just sprinting. But
you were so good at it, you know.
Being good at it doesn't mean you necessarily like it.
And I mean, and like long jump and things like that. And you could walk up and say, "I'm going to go jump over that car right now," you know, and you could do it.
Yes, I liked the long jump, but I could have passed on any of the running.
What was it about the field events that you enjoyed?
I think it was less pressure. You know, you get 3 attempts at the long jump, or 6 if you're in the finals or whatever. Right. Multiple attempts at the high jump. Same with the javelin and the shot put. The running events are one and done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So.
Talk about high school. How did that relate to college? Did anything set you up playing all the different sports? Did that kind of set you up for success in college?
Lifting with Greg Kustra was a definite, bonus. Definitely set me up for, the type of lifting we did at UNI, and it just made me stronger overall for high school and college.
That's a theme we hear from a lot of local athletes, is that Greg Kustra made them the athletes that they were.
Yep. And some talking about with the javelin, the being a center fielder, that helped with the javelin. Right. Just the experience, the competitive spirit, just translated into the D1 atmosphere.
John brings up your high school career. You've been inducted into the High School Softball Hall of Fame, the High School Track Hall of Fame, now going into the UNI Hall of Fame. When you started the career, did you ever think that you'd be in one, let alone 3 different Hall of Fames?
No, because I wasn't going to do sports in high school.
You weren't.
I wasn't. I had a lot of anxiety related to competition, right. And when high school came around, volleyball, nope, not going to do it. Right. Basketball comes around, nope, I'm not going to do it. Track comes around, nope, I'm not going to do it. A week in, I kind of capitulated. Carol Anderson was one of the coaches, and I greatly admired her as my teacher, and so I decided to do it. The rest is history there. Took another year.
How fast was it before you really started to think, I can do this really well?
I don't honestly think I was that great my freshman year. Until towards the end, I ended up 4th in the long jump at state. But I don't think I was very impressive throughout the season. That's the state meet kind of started I think I can do this kind of at a higher level. Took another year to get me into the softball. Doing the softball, so
that's kind of your family's blood, though, isn't it? A little bit baseball, softball.
Yeah. My dad had played since when he was young. And
what was her batting average? Do you remember?
It was like
the
500s.
You'd come up to the plate. Correct. I'm like, well, she's batting 780. So
636.
636. There you go.
I don't know if it's a state record anymore, but it was at the time.
But I mean, you made contact with the ball and you'd be on first base. I mean, it just seemed like the game came so easy to you.
I'm definitely a natural athlete. My mechanics, the technique probably suffered a little bit. I don't know, it just came natural to me. I grew up with my dad, tossing balls to me, and he put a lot of effort into building me up from the beginning.
Did you ever find it a challenge when the third baseman would be standing like 6-7 feet away from home plate and you knew you were going to bunt it to him?
And I'm going to be on first base.
Luckily, I had enough power that if I had the situation where they came up on me, I most often could just hit over their heads. I mean, I didn't hit home runs. I could hit it to the fence.
Yeah.
Kind of whichever way they tried to play me, I could kind of play them the opposite.
I was a little surprised you didn't play softball in college.
That was my intention.
Was it?
Softball was less of an anxiety-inducing sport for me, and that is what I wanted to do. The visits that I took to various schools, for various reasons, were not a good fit for me. And then Travis Geffert from UNI, he was just constantly checking in, and eventually I didn't go and visit until April, but finally I went, and I liked what I saw. He was a great guy, and I made that decision. So
you mentioned anxiety. What are we talking about? Like paralyzing anxiety? Why track? Because that's an individual sport, seemed like, more than like softball. You'd think there would be more pressure to perform for the team. So what was the anxiety that it was like for you?
I think I struggled with the individual anxiety. I mean, I put a lot of pressure on myself individually. On a sports team, I could do what I could in my position when the ball came to me, when I was up to bat, but it didn't rely completely on me. But competing individually was, I always wanted to PR or, get better every time, and that's not necessarily realistic. So
was it the same way in academics? Were you always pushing yourself in academics,
yeah.
or did that come easier?
I didn't necessarily struggle academically, but I had high standards for...
you were a high-achieving athlete and a high-achieving student, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any advice for younger kids that might kind of battle through the same things of how you were able to get through it?
It was tough, but it's worth it when you push through it. And that's not necessarily the case for everyone.
Right.
Everyone has their own battles and their own choices to make. But I knew my talent, and I knew that if I could overcome the anxiety and the fear that I was feeling with these sports, that good things could come from it in the end. And if I hadn't gone out for sports in high school, if people hadn't encouraged me along the way and known when to push and when not to push, I wouldn't be sitting here being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
It's amazing. I never would have gotten that impression that you suffer from anxiety. I don't know about you, Jeff.
I had known it back when you were in high school, because I think it had been talked about a little bit, kind of around the area and stuff. But that's part of what made it impressive, not just the fact that you were kind of dominating so many people back in the day. For you, when you got to college, you come from small town Iowa. Yes, you'd been at Drake Relays, you'd been at Drake for the state event and stuff. But to go off to some of these big college events that you go to, how exciting was that in a way? And maybe what are some of the favorite meets that you ran in through your college career?
It was both exciting and terrifying.
Right.
Drake Relays is always an amazing event, but getting to go to Texas Relays, and I think that was the first time I got to compete against some future Olympians,
right,
and some of the higher ranked individuals in the sport. And the national championships, one was Fayetteville, Arkansas, and getting to compete there. Sacramento for an outdoor championship. I always like to say that was in 2007. Got to compete against a couple of girls that ended up being the Olympians in 2008. And then in 2008, the national championships were in Des Moines, and getting to do that kind of in front of a home crowd.
Those big crowds, did you even pay attention to them at all, or was your anxiety anxious toward the event and things like that?
Yeah, and it wasn't really tailored to the size of the crowd. The nice thing and also not nice thing is that the multi-events don't get as much attention as your 100-meter relay, right, or your individual 100-meter, and so the crowds were smaller. But I was really just focused on myself and my anxiety and what I needed to do to get through the next event.
What were some of your personal highlights of college? What were you the most proud of when you were done?
Definitely the provisional standard for Olympic trials. You know, competing nationally. I always joke there was at one of the national championships. I beat one of the future Olympians because she DQ'd on the 200. But I always
that
say
does not matter.
but I always say I beat her. And I'm just mostly proud with the things that I struggled with and still going through with it and still competing at a high level.
You still hold a few, 4 or 5 records up at UNI?
At this point, I think it's 2, the 4x200 and the 4x400. I did have the heptathlon one at one point, which that one was kind of my pride and joy. But, you know, that's how it goes. People get better, and so I think I'm sitting 3rd on the list there. And long jump, I'm sitting 2nd on the list, I think, both indoor and outdoor. So,
with the Olympics coming up, do you watch like track and field and some of the things that are going on in that part of the sports world?
I haven't been watching the trials, but Travis, my old coach, he has athletes out there competing, and so I've been checking the results, and I think one of his long jumpers just got 3rd, and so that should send him to Paris. So I'm proud of him for all that he is accomplishing, and so I like to keep up with what he's doing, what his athletes are doing, and so I'll definitely watch for those kinds of things.
Was it tough when the sports ended for you? To kind of say, okay, what do I do now? How do I get that competitive edge out there? Or
yes and no. One was I was finally free from that anxiety. Now I do deal with anxiety in daily life, but that specific type of anxiety was gone. But I did struggle kind of with who am I now? I was always, the athlete, and then what's next? Who am I going to be now? I've since got over that, and it took me a long time to want to watch the sport again, because it brought up a lot of kind of those, see him in the starting blocks, and
you just went right back to the time you were there, right?
And I'm starting to enjoy it again. I've gone to a few high school ones, and now wanting to watch the trials and that sort of thing, and becoming more proud of the sport than I was when I left.
So apparently your new passion is golf, right?
Yes.
So I think you have to tell the story that you injured yourself playing golf.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Yes. I go through, 8 years of putting my body through everything in track and softball, and I go play golf and just swing the club and dislocate my kneecap, hit the ground, and turns out I now need surgery.
Oh man.
That's how far I've fallen.
Well, I tell you what, congratulations. It is a phenomenal accomplishment to be in the Hall of Fame. So many different Hall of Fames. You're now at UNI, going to be inducted there August the 30th. Congratulations on that. And
thank you.
Again, your final thoughts on joining all the people that you admired back at UNI and all of that. That's got to be really satisfying, and it has to alleviate some of that anxiety a little bit.
Yeah. Like I said, some of my past teammates have been inducted, and even looking at this year's roster with David Johnson, an NFL player, getting inducted as well, that just just feels really special.
It really does, and no doubt about it, we've said best athlete we've ever covered.
Yeah, absolutely.
For women athletes there.
Well,
so
thank you.
Yeah. You're in our
not
Hall
close.
of Fame.
Not even close.
We don't have a fancy Hall of Fame here. In fact, it's probably just something written on the wall over here. But anyway, congratulations, Dani. I hope to catch up with you again sometime.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations.
Dani Stipe joining us here this morning on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
What's the fastest way to get local scores? The new Carroll Broadcasting Sports Network app. Download it for free today in your app store. You'll get scores and game recaps, game videos, and interviews, along with podcasts, daily sports schedules, athlete features, and more. It's the most complete coverage of all your local sports and teams. Download the Carroll Broadcasting Sports Network app by searching CB Sports Network in your app store. That's CB Sports Network.
No matter who we are or where we come from, we all experience difficulties in life.
Military veterans know that sometimes it takes strength and determination to make it through.
Whether it's physical challenges or struggles on the inside, it takes strength to ask for help when you need it.
Learn how veterans like us have reached out for help and hear stories of strength and recovery at maketheconnection.net.
Once again, our thanks to Dani Stipe joining us here this morning on KCIM Sports Rewind, inducting into the UNI Hall of Fame. Man, incredible athlete. I've never seen an athlete perform on a softball field. I didn't cover track.
Right.
You did that, Jeff, but I've never seen anybody who just made contact with a softball, and you're on first base. Yeah. And literally, they could not throw her out at any base.
No, she was amazing at the plate. I sometimes sit back and just remember that she literally could have played the outfield by herself.
Yeah.
I mean, she covered so much ground. I remember making a catch as a center fielder that was down the left field line, and stuff. So yeah, just
blazing speed.
Yeah,
I mean, just incredible athlete.
Well, and the other thing, part of that is if you don't get a jump, meaning you don't see the ball off of the bat right, even with her speed, you don't get to it. So to be able to read the ball off of the bat, to be able to get that jump, to use the speed to be able to get there, just tells you how special of an athlete. You said it. There was nobody close to her as far as female athletes that I've covered in my 25 years of covering high school sports.
It's insane to see what she was able to do on the track and on the softball time and things like that. So anyway, we got a trivia question here this morning, so let's get to that. Boston Celtics won their 17th NBA championship. The city of Boston has done pretty well this century. Since 2000, how many championships has the city of Boston won? How many championship parades have they hosted?
Patriots had, 6?
Yeah.
Red Sox have won 3. Right, so that should be 9. Do you got it broken down by?
Yep.
Okay. So are we accurate so far?
No, you're wrong already.
Already? Okay. It was the Patriots 7?
No, the Patriots were 6.
Okay.
It's the Red Sox you had wrong.
Do they have 4?
They had 4.
They had 4. Okay. I remembered 3 of them.
Okay. So that's 6 and 4. That's 10.
I wouldn't know how much the Bruins.
The Bruins. I'm going to guess 3 or 4.
No.
Nope.
Wrong on that one.
Okay.
I know they've won.
Give me a number, a total number.
15.
Nope, you're close. You're over it.
14.
We're going to go down the line. Next one.
Okay. 13?
13. There you go.
Okay.
13
so they only
major
have 3
championships
titles.
since 2000. That's insane to think
That's pretty much a parade, almost 3/4 out of the time you get a parade.
At least more than every 2 years. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my trivia question of the day. You guys got a top 5 here? Should we count it down here?
Now on with the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, it's the top 5 here on KCIM Sports Rewind. What do you got for us? The top players, right, in Baseball or softball?
Yeah, we'll do baseball this week, and we'll announce the top 5 in softball coming up next week. And Casey and I were just thinking the other day as we're starting to kind of, go through everything, putting together our Rewind All-Star event, and probably it'll be, 8-10 days somewhere in there that we'll probably maybe a little bit over that. We'll say 8 to 12 days that we'll send out our invites. But us and the other people that help out and put these things together, we were kind of thinking it's like we're getting late in the season. We've talked about some of the teams that have done good, but one thing we haven't kind of done is kind of just which players are off to tremendous starts and playing and have been very steady throughout the year. So we put together a top 5. We'll do baseball this week and softball next week. But Casey, I'll let you start. We don't have them in any particular order. These are just kind of the 5 guys. And the interesting thing is we both kind of had
the same 4.
The same 4, and then we differed a little bit on the 5th, and we discussed it and came up with a conclusion on the 5th. But
and that is.
Yeah, just going down the list, the first one we had was Cal Hayden from Coon Rapids Baird. I mean, he nothing. If you watch him play baseball, you know.
Yeah.
He's a multi-sport athlete. Does a great job. And then we had Jay Starman from IKM Manning. I mean, a kid that was batting like 230, I think, last year. Now just south of 500, and only a sophomore.
And hitting for power. And that's the scary thing. Those first 2 guys we mentioned, both sophomores.
Wow.
Going to be juniors in the fall. Those first 2 guys.
Watch over the next few
absolutely.
years.
And then Andrew Anderson, does about everything for SEC. Plays center field, hits the top of the order. I think he's hitting over 400 this year. Doesn't have a very high ERA. I don't know what his ERA is sitting at, but
it's in the low 2s. He's been used a lot as a closer or a mid-relief guy a lot this year, but he's been fantastic.
And then we had Jonathan Bergmeyer as our last one, I believe. So
yeah, we have one more guy in there, but Jonathan's put together. What was he hitting? 460 something, I think.
441.
Yeah, somewhere in there yesterday, and going into last night's games, and just a tremendous year. Really good defensive outfielder, comes in and pitches for him, and got in the ERA of in the 2s or 3s. So he's had a really good year so far. And then our final guy, you go back down to Coon Rapids, and kind of similar to Jay Starman in a way, that a guy that didn't hit for a huge number a year ago.
I remember our 4th guy was Colby Culbertson.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, Parker Hayes.
Was it? Did you have Parker Hayes down there?
Parker Hayes is who we had. Yeah. So did you have it down as Colby?
Yeah.
So we may have a top 6. So yeah. So. But I thought we had the same guys, but we didn't. So but Parker Hayes was our other guy. So yeah.
There you go. Top 5 baseball players. We'll do the top 5 softball
We'll make sure
players.
to only have 5 next week for softball.
Yeah, please try to recount.
It's not easy going through. It's kind of like the rewind thing, man. Everybody thinks it's easy to figure out who the top kids are, and when you start diving into things and everything else, it's a lot of hard work. Yeah.
So, all right, baseball, softball. What's happening right now is everybody's getting ready for the playoffs coming up the week after the 4th of July, which is just a little over a week away.
Yeah. So the postseason starts July the 6th. So a week from this Saturday will be when the baseball playoffs start, and then the softball playoffs will start on Monday, July the 8th. We know the pairings already for the class 1A, 2A baseball. Softball hasn't been released yet, and 3A baseball, which would be Carroll High, will be coming up next week. We've got some interesting matchups. Audubon and Glidden Ralston, both they're part of a doubleheader. They both go over to Woodbine on the opening night. South Central Calhoun goes up and takes on Southeast Valley at Pocahontas area. Kemper got a bye in the opening round. They'll have to probably go through OABCIG on the road more than likely if they would get to the district final, and then run into second-ranked Van Meter. Coon Rapids Baird got a huge win Saturday down at the Brent Prang tournament, the Classic down there. They knocked off Woodbury Central, who they would run into in a district final and stuff. So that was a big win for them.
Yeah, that's a nice little preview of potential matchups in the playoffs.
And then they would probably more than likely have to go through Remsen St. Mary's, in the sub-state final. You got Arweva that's traveling. If I remember right, it's to Woodbury Central in the opening round. This might be the second straight year.
Well,
they've got
for baseball,
that they've got sent to Woodbury Central for their opening round.
And then IK Manning's in that same district. They're going to take on Exira. If they win, they'll get Kuhn in the second round.
They get Kuhn in the second round. So those are kind of the opening round matchups. But we'll have two doubleheaders on Saturday, July the 6th. I'll be down in Kuhn with the games down there. Nick's going to go up and do the South Central Calhoun against Southeast Valley game, and then Casey gets to go over to Woodbine and do the doubleheader over there. So
games galore going on.
Yes. So it'll be fun.
Yep, and so again, softball playoffs start the 6th, and baseball
softball's the 8th, and baseball's the 6th.
Baseball's the 6th. That's weird.
Ever since they moved with that dead week now at the end of the season, they moved baseball playoffs up. So the baseball playoffs start before the softball playoffs. I'm still having a hard time getting that because after 20-some years of it being the other way, it's switched here the last few years.
Well, that's. We'll wait for all the playoff pairings to be posted online. The pairings are out right now.
The baseball pairings are out for 1A and 2A.
Not for 3A.
Yep, but not for 3A. They're supposed to be out Thursday or Wednesday this week. And then I would assume there's nobody, even the coaches don't know the exact date the softball pairings are coming out. But with the playoffs on July 8th, I would hope that they will be out by the end of this week.
Yeah, you would hope that it would give at least a little more time.
Well, what was it? In basketball, they only gave them 5 days. So
the girls' basketball playoffs came out 5 days before the playoffs started this past winter. So
all right, so that'll wrap it up for KCIM Sports Rewind. Our thanks to Dani Stipe once again for joining us here this morning. Had a little audio difficulty with that. We'll get that turned up a little bit. So if you catch the podcast available on the website here in just a bit, you'll be able to hear that a little better quality, hopefully, than what we're able to do here on the air. Just a little snafu with the wiring, I guess. So that's it. KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.